Hey folks, welcome back to part 23 of manual testing series. In this video, let's talk about what is test case and how do we write test case, and we will take an example and write the test case. Okay, before we begin, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Before writing the test case, we must know few things. What is test scenario? The test scenario is a high level classification of testable requirement. These requirements are grouped on the basis of the functionality of a module and obtained from the use cases. Okay. So test case is different and test scenario is different. So test scenario is a high level classification of the requirement. Okay. Suppose there is a login page and we have to verify the login page. Okay. First, we will write the test scenario. Okay. And based on that, we can write the test cases. So test cases here can be like positive test case, negative test case. So it is like the scenario can be further divided into test cases. Okay. Next, let's see what is test case. Test case is a defined format for software testing required to check if a particular application or the software is working or not. Okay. So here it is a format basically. It is a document which contains all the details of requirement has been covered and what are the different scenarios has been covered, what are the different test cases has been covered. All the details will be present in this document. This case consists of a certain set of conditions that need to be checked to test an application or a software. That is, in more simple terms, when conditions are checked, it checks if the resultant output meets with the expected output or not. So basically, we will verify the expected result versus actual result. Okay, while executing test cases. So test cases need to be properly written because even if we miss any of the one scenario or one test case, it is it's a risk involved. Okay, there is a risk involved, so that is the reason we have to think in a uh, mm, you know broader way and then cover the test cases. So test case coverage plays an important role. This case consists of various parameters such as ID, condition, steps, input, with result, and then what is the result or the status, all the different fields that it contains. So, hope you understood what is test scenario and what is the difference between test case and test scenario. Where in case of test scenario, it is a part of a requirement, okay, and whereas the test case is something which is the format where all the detail, what test has been performed, what input we have provided, all the details we will put in. Okay, so that is called its test case. So, whereas a test scenario can be further divided into cases, whereas the test case cannot be further divided, rather, it can be divided as a test step. Okay, what steps we follow to execute a particular test case. So, let's start with writing the test case now. First, we will list out what are the different fields that are required. First is like project name, okay, and then module name, created by, who created this test case document, and then created date, what is the created date, and then who reviewed this. Okay, so it is like reviewed by. So all these are important. Okay, and then reviewed date. Okay, and then what are the other things is required? It is like scenario um ID, we'll say. What is the scenario ID? And then what is the scenario? It is like scenario description, you can say. What is the scenario description? And then what is the test case ID? And what is the test case name? Okay. And then test step. What are the test steps we need to follow? And then, is there any precondition? We can write it in the preconditions. Okay. And then test data. Okay. Uh, what are the inputs that are required? Okay. And then expected result, actual result, whether it is passed or failed. To write that, we can have a status column. And if there are any comments, we can write it in the comments. Okay. So these are the different attributes of a test case documentation. So what we will do is, let's convert this into columns. Okay. And then we'll remove this. We'll remove this. So we can have like serial number here. Okay. So project name, all this, we'll just format it. Okay. And then, um, okay. So what we are going to write it here is, before that we will take an example of a Gmail, we'll say. Okay. Gmail, Gmail login page. We will consider the module login page. Okay. And then created by, who created this? So the tester name, or who created that, those whoever has created, those name can be added here. And then created date. So on what date we are creating, you can have that. Okay. And then who is the reviewer? So you can have the some reviewer name. Let's say XYZ. Okay. And then what is the review date? So all these details we need to fill in. Okay. So now we can start writing our scenario. So the scenario ID, you can have something like, if you have any module name based on each of the companies, they will, follow some scenario ID format and then those things. So in that case, you can have the scenario ID. Otherwise, you can have the a scenario ID, anything random. First, what we will do is verify the login functionality of Gmail. So this is the test scenario. Okay. And then mention the test case ID. It is like TC001 or 0001. Anything it could be. So now we will write the test case. So here, this is one test scenario. So here it can be further divided into cases. First, what we will write is verify the login with valid username and password. Okay. So this is the first test case. Okay. And then we can write the test step. First, what is the step is, okay, enter the valid URL and then enter the valid username and password. Valid username and password. So these are the steps. And then next is click on login button. Okay. So these are the test steps basically. Okay. So what are the precondition? If we want to achieve this, what are the precondition? So precondition is one is valid URL, okay, and next is valid user data or valid username and password, okay. And what is the test data? So test data, let's say for username, you can have something valid, which is like testing at the rate gmail.com, okay. And then password, we can have something valid, which is password at the rate 123. Okay. So let's say this is the valid username and password. Okay. And what is the expected result here? So we have entered valid username and valid password. Okay. Our expectation as per the requirement, the expectation is user should be able to successfully, user should be able to successfully log in and should be navigated to home page. Okay. So let's say this is the our expectation. This is what we are expecting. So actual result once we test it, then the actual result comes into picture. So until that time, we'll be just having expected result. So once you execute the test case, what you can do is you can write what is the actual result that you faced. So at that time, you can say that user was or user is successfully able to log in and user was redirected to home page. Okay. So in this case, what will happen is, so the result is like pass. In case if the user is redirected to the home page, then the result is obviously pass. Otherwise, the result will be fail. So you can just say if it is passed, you can say pass. Otherwise, you can say fail. Okay. If you have any comments, you can put it here. So in the same way, for the same scenario, we can create different test case. So what is the next test case is? So we wrote the positive case here. How to write the negative case? So it is just like verify the login with valid username and invalid password. Okay, valid username and invalid password. So the test step would be same, same test step you have to follow. But in case of valid password, you have to put in invalid password. So you can write invalid. So now we can say that the precondition will be just you valid username and then invalid password. Okay. And then here also we will make some changes. We will allow the username to be same and then password to be something which is not correct. We will say uh, some random thing. Okay. So here, what is expected result? What will be the expected result when the username is correct and then password is incorrect? User should not be allowed to log in, right? So what is our expected result is user should not be able to log in and user should see a error message saying invalid username and or password. Okay. So this is the expected error message. And also we will write some different combination. So here we one combination what we saw is like valid username and valid password. Next negative scenario, valid username but invalid password. So again we will change something here. So what we will do is valid password we will give, okay, but invalid username. It is a different combination, okay. So you have to follow the same step, but in case of, okay, we will put in invalid username, but the password is like valid password. Okay, valid password. After putting these details, we will say valid URL is required, but here invalid username and then valid password is required. Okay, so we will change even the test data. We will provide correct password here. Okay, this. So in case of gmail.com, we will give something. Okay, random thing. So it is like invalid password. So invalid password we are going to give. So what is the expected result? Expected result is also same. Okay. Here also user should not be allowed to log in, and then error message should be displayed saying that invalid username or password. Okay. After you test it, you can write the expected result. So here you can say that user was not able to log in and error message invalid username or password displayed. Okay. So this is what you can state. And it would be the same thing for this as well. So, and then the next is we will take another combination, invalid username and invalid password. Okay. A different combination. So in this, what we will do is we will put in invalid username and then invalid password. So this will change. Okay. So here also we are going to put the invalid password and then let's say this is invalid email and then some invalid password. Okay. So in this case also it should be the same. User should not be allowed to log in and then it should display the error message. Okay. So this is how we will write the test case, and also you can update it with the pass or fail status. Okay. What is the status based on the actual result. Okay. So this is how we will write the test case document. Basically, it contains the project name, module name, created by, created date, reviewed by, review date. So you can later update it also. And if there is any column which is required for you, you can add them also based on your project need. Okay, you can add that also. So this is one such scenario. But in case if you have want, in case of different page or different modules, you might get more than one scenario. At that time, you can cover it, and then based on the test scenario, you can further divide it into test cases and then write it. So hopefully you got how what is test case, what is test scenario, and how to create the test case documentation. If you have liked this video, please do like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.